McCarthy. He was a defenseman, I think. McCarthy?
Nope. You're thinking of it. It's the big. Who's the big name from Minnesota defense?
Was it
McCarthy.
Robida? Was the game where Robida was playing
Nope.
forward?
See how quiet he is?
He's really quiet. We can't hear you at all,
He's really
Sean.
low.
Is it on?
I think the show started.
Has the
Oh,
show?
crap. Did the light go on? The eyeball showed up. At least we have somebody remote letting us know.
Yeah.
We got a good one today. Sean doesn't know we're live. We didn't know we were live.
Just looking for.
We're going to have, we
material.
think, a live guest from Finland, depending on how the Wi-Fi signal holds up today. We got a lot going on. Robert Tiffin joins us from Finland. Sam, Sean, Luddy, John, me. Let's get it going.
This is Robert Tiffin. I'm in Tampere, Finland, or Tampere, Finland, and this is what happened previously on the DLS Dallas Stars podcast.
I am the closest to the icebergs of the Titanic in Maine, and then all the way over in Finland, it's Josh and Razor and the Dallas Stars. So, Luddy left because he's had enough of us already, or maybe he just didn't want to wear the Chicago Blackhawks jersey anymore.
Can we pop up that picture one more time of the world or the water and all that stuff that's on there?
Picture of the world.
So, I'm looking at Josh up there in the top right. He needs to get outside a little bit more.
Well,
can we bring friends?
Are they? Is their occupation legal?
They're my
and
friends.
What do you mean by friends?
It is Wednesday, October 30th. That's right. One day until Halloween, Luddy's favorite day of the year. Welcome to the DLS Dallas Stars podcast. I almost said post-game show again. Muscle memory. We had a lot of games, now a couple of shows as we get ready for the Global Series in Finland coming up on Friday and Saturday. And welcome in our full cast and crew, along with our producer, John Anderson. We've got Sean Shapiro in Michigan. We have Sam, our buddy Nestler in New Jersey. We've got the Bermuda Triangle now.
Who is that, Hitler?
No, it's not Hitler.
Franz Ferdinand?
Franz Ferdinand.
Wasn't that German?
It is Franz Ferdinand. Unbelievable. I got that right.
And then we will be joined in our second segment by Robert Tiffin, or as Luddy called him, the poor man's Rick Tocchet from Finland, in our second segment coming up in just a couple of minutes. Boy, what a way to start the show. I'm ready to go. Franz Ferdinand. Nicely done, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get to a lot of history classes my senior year, but I still got a C. So,
well, there's always that. That's always fun. Look, this is a big build-up week for us because they have the whole week in Finland before the Global Series games against the Florida Panthers on Friday and Saturday. And we're going to talk to Robert. He's on the scene in our next segment and get a sense of what it's like being there on the ground. But Sean, you made a trip to Finland as part of your previous employer, which is your favorite way to refer to it, and or at least your most regular way to refer to it. I don't know about favorite is the word I would use. But anyway, you made a work trip to Finland. Was it 22? What year was it?
19. 19.
It was 2019. Okay,
now.
so it was before the pandemic then.
Yeah, it was pre-COVID, and my.
Don't be afraid to speak
employer.
up.
I know. Apparently, I'm having mic issues, and I just need to start yelling. Right? That's the.
Yeah, he gets quiet. He's shouting and he's quiet.
Yeah, you do get quiet.
We need to get Sean a new mic.
He's a quiet talker. You know,
yeah, like a close talker, but he's a
close
quiet
talker. That's it.
He just whispers a lot and says he likes to do things. He's just going to wait for us to run our gag. Look at that. He's like the annoyed father that doesn't want to play with the kids, but he's got to sort of entertain them for a little while.
So, as you were saying, Sean.
Are you ready to actually have a show? Are we ready?
Yeah, let's do it. Go for it.
Are we live?
I don't know. Sure.
I think so. I mean, yes. I've been to one of the. I think Robert is there now, and we'll talk to him quite a bit about what he's experiencing this week. But one of my favorite parts about when I did go to Finland was it wasn't the big circus of the NHL event. It was it was a trip to. There was a Stars related event that I went to. There was an alumni game that featured a bunch of guys who played for the Stars that had played in Liga back in Finland. But I got to go kind of explore the country in August, drive around. Visited with roopehintz, Dlls, miroheiskanen when they were all like outside of the busy NHL schedule, and kind of see a bit of the hockey culture and kind of how it all intersects. And one of my favorite things, I was reminded of this the other day, was one of my favorite stories from that trip is I'm meeting with Jiri Lehtinen, and I go to the Hockey Finland offices, and I asked to meet with Jiri Lehtinen. And I said it, the way I say it now is the way I was told to start saying it by Finnish people. Because before I was saying it so incorrectly that I walked to the Hockey Finland offices, and I said I was there to meet with Jiri. And they said, who? And I said his name again. And they're like, who? And I'm like, oh, he's the GM. And then they said, oh, Jiri Lehtinen. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I didn't realize I was saying it that poorly where Finnish people didn't even realize what I was saying when trying to pronounce his name. So I met with Jiri, and he had a great story about there's a bunch of rinks over there. We use the Finnish word jahali for rink over there. They have a bunch of rinks that are effectively built underground. Basically, there's they've got all these bunkers and everything like that they put rinks in. And one of my favorite lines from Jiri told me, said, well, being in Finland and where we are and close to Russia and everything like that, we're used to building bunkers for war reasons and everything like that. So why not put the rinks in them, since it's better to play hockey in them than to hide in them. And so that's why there's a bunch of rinks that are effectively underground, where like I drove up to one where there was a sign, and I thought it was just a utility closet on the ground, but really what it was just probably an 8x8 room above ground with an elevator and stairs that you took to get underground. And there was 2 full-size rinks just completely under there. So it was kind of cool to see just how the hockey culture is built there, where the rinks are. And then just to see kind of and we have Robert on, I wanted him to talk about just what he saw with the Jokerit game the other night, but just to see what all those teams mean to those communities and how things are built into like the culture of it, right? Where if you're in Helsinki, you're an HIFK fan or a Jokerit fan, and you grew up with it, and that's what the team you play for as 14U, 16U, and everything like that, and you work your way up to that. Like, to me, to see all of that firsthand was really cool. And it was also gives you a little bit more appreciation for what the Stars of such a heavy Finnish roster impact and what they've had in the past. To be the person over there, to be the foreigner was actually gives a really good appreciation for what some of these guys come over when they come over to the United States, and they're playing in a foreign place and everything like that. So to be a bit of the foreigner, being there by myself without anyone giving me any guidance, was a really nice thing and a good reminder of this is the stuff, and we should give way more credit to some of these European players that come over and what they handle so smoothly, which doesn't have to be so easy. So.
Hey, Luddy,
I don't know. How are my audio levels, chat? Since I know.
You're all over the place for us, but I think for the YouTube viewers and our audio podcast listeners later, it's normal. But for us, you fluctuate. So we're sitting there doing this a lot.
I don't. I just check right out.
He glazes over. It's great. About. Sean mentioned Jere or Jere, if they try to say it in Finnish, which I can't. So I don't know.
We used to just say let's.
So. We've talked all this about how cool it is for Miro and Roope and Esa to take the team over. But this has to be huge for a guy like Jiri Lehtinen, Kari Taco, who's their head European scout. Like, to have their franchise that they played for and represented, and in Yuri's case has his number retired, come to his country and play. That's got to be huge for him too.
Yeah, and I think to play on their time schedule once in a while, because I think for the most part you're always watching, if you are watching, at the wrong time of the day. So, I had something kind of similar to that, but probably not even close to these guys. Is when I was in Montreal, we had I had the Montreal Canadiens come to my hometown of 1,200 and play in a softball tournament, all of them. I mean, all the guys from Larry Robinson, I can go down the list, and it was a zoo, but it was the same kind of feeling. Like, I got to bring my team to my hometown, and you're very proud of where you play. And it's nice that, yeah, you actually do see these guys, and then you see how good of people that they are away from playing hockey.
How big is your hometown of Eagle
1,200
River?
people.
1,200.
I think it's up to 1,300 now. 1,300,
it's a
but
population
in the
boom.
summer it goes to like 25, 30,000.
A lot,
very
lot of summer
touristy.
folks, right?
It's touristy. There's a lot of drinkers up there. There are a lot of fibs. And
That shocks me.
yeah, I'll let everybody else figure out what fibs are, but those are the people from Chicago. They're nicknamed fibs. So if anybody wants to write in, I can't say it, but I'm just saying.
Okay.
So but we're very nice to them, and we love it when they come. Look at Sean; he's googling it right now. He's looking up in the sky.
No.
He's looking at the chat.
I just remembered I had an ad read, and so I'm prepping before I completely.
He almost messed up his reading again. He panicked. Like, oh no.
So anyway, I can kind of relate in a very small way, like how nice it is to be able to bring your teammates and your friends and be able to play in front of your home.
Sam, what's the sense? I know we're kind of watching him from afar, but I get the sense that we talked about this on Monday. You know, Luddy's always adamant about distractions being a problem and he hates them, and maybe, you know, you had even said that getting a shorter trip maybe would have been a little bit more focused. But in a sense, for me, having a longer stay in Finland allows them to do all those things that we would call distractions and then kind of gear up, refocus, and play two really important games.
Yeah, and I think Pete DeBoer's mentioned it a couple times, and he's wording it very well. He's looking at it the right way, right? They have, first of all, it's an NHL team with a ton of veterans that's won a ton of hockey games. They're not really worried about them getting too distracted and just like forgetting that they're playing the Stanley Cup champions 2 times on Friday and Saturday. So that's not really a concern. But the other way is, like you said, they have the week. So they mentioned they have a couple hard practices they're excited for. They have some work they want to get done ahead of these games, but they also want to experience all this because this team's been through a lot. They've played like the most games of any team over the last 2 seasons. They've very short summers and an extremely condensed beginning of this season where I think they played 6 games in 10 nights, something like that. It's been crazy, right? Camp's gone super fast. Everything's just kind of flown through once we hit the ground. And so it's almost like here's a chance for them to actually go, still a business trip, still get some work done, still hopefully get 2, 3, maybe even 4 points out of it. But let's enjoy this other part of it. I think that's going to be really big mentally for these guys. I mean, seeing people, especially Miro and Rope and Essa being kind of quieter guys, seeing them be as excited as they've been and as happy as they've been to show them around and everything, I think it's only going to do good things for the team.
I would also add it's their opponent too, right? It's not like they're playing the San Jose Sharks. Not to take, they won a big game last night, so not to take anything away from them, but they're playing the defending Stanley Cup champions. And so you know what you're getting into. And every team this year, not just Dallas, but teams are going to use them as measuring sticks, so to speak, and say, this is where we are. We want to be able to compete and show that these guys, if we do get to face them this year in the finals, if they get back, you kind of want to plan a seed because you only play them a couple times a year anyway.
Well,
they're playing in Tampere, which is, I had to look it up because I was saying Tampere. The closest English would probably be Tampere, if you want to say it in a real Americanized, but Tampere, Finland, Nokia Arena. And I looked this up. 200 feet by 92 feet is their official distance, which is 7 feet wider than an NHL rink. And they have a capacity for hockey at about 13,455, according to Wikipedia. But then I was talking to Sean this morning because, we talk sometimes. And Sean, you actually have a really good piece of reporting about the width of this rink for this Global Series matchup.
Yeah, it's an NHL regulation size rink. It's not the 92 feet width is for the Finnish league, and it's just like when the NHL went to Sweden last year in Gothenburg. The rink the size has been reduced for this game to fit the NHL specs. Part of the agreement to host, if you're going to host an international NHL game or an NHL regulation game, one of the league standards is it has to be an NHL regulation rink. So when Nokia Arena was built, it was actually initially built. They used a lot of they used it. There was kind of a multiple levels to it. Part of it building it was to be able to host world championships, and Finland hosted 2 of them in Nokia Arena, and that was essentially needed to not go too far down this path, but essentially the arena that Jokerit used to play at is currently just basically shuttered because it's owned by Russians. So the big national arena where Finland used to play in Helsinki, the biggest one, what used to be called Hartwell Arena, is effectively just because it's owned by Russians, and with the ongoing global economic climate, that arena is unavailable. So Nokia Arena in Tampere has become the effective home for Finnish hockey. The arena was then built with the design of having the boards adjustable, so it's expanded wide, so it expands normal for when Ilves and I'm trying to blank on the other one that plays there. When there's two teams in Tampere that play there, but when those two teams play, it's wider. But so to host NHL events, the size is reduced, just like they did last year in Sweden. And it's kind of a cool thing the way this arena is built, Owen and Luds and Sam and everyone, because they effectively used all of the money they've made from this arena, from building out stuff from the World Championships. Hockey Finland has effectively worked to funnel that back to growing the sport at a youth level and growing more, and hiring basically regional coaches. So you got to remember, Finland is small enough where the population of Finland is smaller than DFW. There's more people in DFW than there are in Finland. And we're talking about a country that is still a top 4 hockey country in the world. So in order to compete with that population size, you can't let anyone fall through the cracks. And so Finland has effectively used a lot of revenue from this stuff and everything to put money back into having individual coaches in all, I think it's 13 or 14 regions right now, to have these individual coaches in all of these regions that recognize talent, work with kids to the level, and it just this all funnels back into it. And yes, that's a way I found to go on a segue after Owen asked me just about the size of the ice.
Well, we'll ask Robert for forgiveness for cutting into his segment time, because we're going to talk to Robert Tiffin about the Dallas Stars live from Finland next on the DLS Dallas Stars podcast.
Okay. This is the ad read I was worried about a second ago when Lubs accused me of looking up things on Google. I had to go look this up. But I'm going to tell everyone today about Rhoback Activewear. It's quite simple. It's the best fit, the best feel. The quality of gear just speaks for itself. Their performance polos perform better in the heat than any other polos. They're moisture wicking, so the polo doesn't stick to you. And you have such a nice stretch. Their everyday shorts are perfect combo for a day on the move, like you have today in Dallas. They look clean, but they use comfort of an elastic waistband. They fall right around the corner. What better way to prepare for the season than adding one of their performance hoodies to your closet? They're the softest items you'll own, and you won't want to take them off, even now when the Dallas T is going on. So use the code DLLSstars20 on roback.com for a generous 20% off your first order. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all polos, hoodies, and shorts with the code DLLSstars20. Make sure to check them out. They'll be ready for you, unlike I am when it comes to ad reads.
Boy, he hits his time even if he starts by meandering for a half an hour, but that's okay. Thank you, Sean. Let's talk about game time. Everybody that is a sports fan has to love going to games. Well, maybe that's not true. Maybe some people like to stay home, but most people love being live in person, whether it's for a sporting event, concert, theater show, comedy, stand-up, you name it, I want to go. Well, you need Game Time then. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events much easier. And Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Interesting things they have is some of their priorities, all-in pricing. That means that using this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Plus, you have the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you up to 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time by downloading the Game Time app. Create an account, use the code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code DLLS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Hey, Sam, what time is it?
Game time. Who? And to add to that, Game Time right now, 10% off all bleacher seats and 20 to 25% off the home plate area for the Winter Classic at Wrigley Field now until December 2nd. So check that out.
Nice. Awesome. And look who it is.
Rick Tocchet.
There he is.
Robert Tiffin, who is the author and founder of his own site called starsthoughts.com, live from Tampere, something like that.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today.
You bet. Yeah, it's good to be with you guys. Trying to figure out internet stuff at a new hotel is always fun, but hopefully it's working Yeah, it's been great. They're playing, like you said, up in Tampere. I've tried to replicate the Finnish accent a few times with limited success. The best thing is when you go into a store and they initially respond, like address you in Finnish, so that at least tells me that I'm not projecting too much kind of American obnoxiousness. But overall, yeah, when you hang out with any of the Finnish guys here, and I was with a Finnish tour guide today for a sauna and cold plunge experience, they're very patient with you. As long as they have any idea what you're saying, which is most of the time, since they usually speak a lot more languages than we do.
You know, it's funny you say that because I went to Paris in, 2002, I think. Yeah, it was. And a lot of people say that you can get sort of an attitude or an arrogance when you walk into a restaurant or a store and you don't speak the language. Well, I don't speak French, but I know a few phrases, and one of them was, parlez-vous anglais? Do you speak English? And I would say that very politely, and I would get a yes. And then, but they would generally be very nice to me. So are you getting that kind of a reception up in Finland?
Oh yeah. As soon as, you say hello or something, then they'll immediately switch over, and it's pretty seamless. In fact, the concierge, or whatever you want to say, at the hotel I'm at today, apologized because her English wasn't very good, and she was still able to tell me where I needed to park my car and all sorts of things that I couldn't do in almost any other second or third language. So yeah, the standard is just much higher here, right?
You are able to ask where the bathroom is, though, Res?
Oh yeah, which, not that I've needed to do that, but yes, I did have to do that the other night. It worked well. It's been great, but the experience over here is just. Everyone should go to another country. Everyone always says this, right? Try something else out. But seeing hockey in another country is like that times 10, because I think Sean was saying in the first segment, but the way the rinks are set up, just the way, at the Jokerit game last night, seeing players like Jason Robertson and Wyatt Johnston and Logan Stankoven just kind of being, there's some other guys over there, but everyone's here to talk to Esa Lindell. It's a pretty cool experience to see what hockey means to these people, because of the players that have come through here, both the country and clubs like Jokerit in particular.
I have an important question, Robert. Have you tried the Kuko lager yet?
Let's see. I've tried a few because I've been given some. That one doesn't ring a bell though yet. I tried one with a dog on it. Is a Kuko lager have a dog on it?
No.
Okay.
Kairu, no star. I'm not a big Dallas Cowboys fan, so no secret. But I was just curious. Okay, have you seen any of the guys walking around? I'm curious about their activity time. Naturally.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, the first day they got here, their flight was delayed. I'm sure everyone's heard about that by now. So they just did like the whole sauna and cold plunge thing that night. They had a quick media availability at the hotel. So I walked up to the hotel, and they're trying to just throw stuff together in a banquet room, basically, to get them on camera and do that sort of thing. And so I rode an elevator with, Jake Ottinger and Colin Blackwell and a couple other guys, and we're all just kind of chatting about the same travel small talk you make, with anyone that you run into, because everyone, long flight, did you sleep, do this, etc., get coffee, all that sort of thing. I ran into Oscar Beck today walking over to the hotel for a different reason, and just saw him, and we're all bundled up, but he's when you see someone most days of the week, they're pretty recognizable. So I said hey, and he kind of did a double take because he wasn't used to being recognized over here, right? He's Swedish, so maybe they have some familiarity, but it's a little bit different. They're just kind of going about their business. Most of them can go and get coffee, and no one knows them unless they're the Finnish players. Then they're just a total celebrity, and those are the guys. I mean, the line to see Esa Lindell, I think Leah of the Dallas Morning News posted a video last night. The line to see him was crazy long, and they had to cut it off because the game was about to start, because he's the rock star over here.
I have another question, and since we've got three guys on the screen here, I'm curious, how do these games start? Like when you guys were talking about Yuri and all the Finnish players, does it start with a player recommending that we want to go there? Does it start from the league? Do they go down a list and go, we have so many Finnish guys on these two teams, let's go there? How did this get picked, and say, how long does it typically? I'm trying to get Sam's trying to point that way. I'm just curious how they initiate these things.
Yeah, it depends on, there's a couple different ways it can play out, but essentially it's organizations tell the NHL they want to be part of these events. And the key with it is, if you're part of these events, you're also giving up a home game too. So the league is effectively buying a home game away from you for you to go do this too. So it comes down to there's various driving factors. For the Stars, essentially, they've wanted to do something international for a while now. The Stars were going to play, before COVID happened, the Stars were going to play a preseason game in China. That was going to be on their docket. They always want to be on the international radar. The Stars have wanted to play a game in Mexico. That's been something. And essentially, the Stars have always had to raise their hand to the league of like, we'd love to go to an international spot. So the league actually came to the Stars last year because last year, remember, 4 teams went to Sweden, and it was Ottawa, Minnesota, Detroit, and Toronto. And the league actually went to the Stars before a year prior and said like, hey, we want you going to Europe. Do you want to go on the Sweden trip this year, or do you want to go to Finland the next year? And the Stars naturally picked to go to Finland because of the tie to the country instead of going to Sweden. So the Stars could have been in Europe last year and did this year. The other one, like Luds, and this does happen, like the Predators, for example, when they went and they played a game in Switzerland, that was a big push for them to reward Roman Josi. That was a big thing within the organization for the Predators to be like, we want to go play a game in Switzerland for Roman Josi, for our captain. And that was a big push by the Predators. After they had actually signed Josi to his long-term extension, they started pushing for that. Other teams, the Sharks, for example, we've seen them go play in Germany a couple times. Their owner, Husso Platter, is German. And it's a big thing of working on growing the brand there. So it's a couple moving parts, but from the Stars' perspective, the Stars have been really good about raising their hand to be a part of as many events as possible. They got the draft, they got the Winter Classic, and then you kind of get rewarded for things like that. And so now that's why they were given a choice of, hey, do you want to go to Sweden or Finland? Not every team gets that choice. Some teams will be like, hey, if you want a trip, you take it or leave it. And the Stars, basically based on the way Brad Alberts and his team have run the business and got a lot of other things done to help the NHL, like hosting the Winter Classic the way they did gave the Stars a huge advantage in getting anything like this that they want. So it all kind of built up that way there.
I would just like to add, so this is all the people in the chat. Yeah. You guys can start typing in good question, Luds. And that's it for me for today.
So
I got a Halloween
said
skate to go to.
Right, they opted to go to Finland for obvious reasons. This feels like it's a huge thing for not only this team but specifically these Finnish players. Robert, have you seen? We know that Miro, Roope, Esa aren't going to be the loudest guys, especially when it comes to talking to the media. They're a little more reserved. Have you seen them coming out of the shell a little bit more over there?
Yeah, for them, I guess, none of them is turning into a loud, boisterous kind of, shouting at each other across a parking lot because Finnish people just don't tend to do that anyway. But at their first practice on Tuesday, I have never seen them smile that much throughout the whole practice. Elaine Nesradine had one point where, occasionally the players or coaches will mess with each other a little bit during practice just to keep it light. But at one point, Nesradine was kind of like hooking on to Miro as he's skating back. And Miro's just like messing, get away, like grinning at him and laughing and stuff. The players themselves were they're celebrities. I mean, I really don't know how many more times I can say that because Esa, before practice, after practice, there's people there that he's catching up with or talking to, whether they're relatives or friends or whoever. Miro went to visit a couple places already. One of his home rinks, roopehintz, went to a children's hospital yesterday just to stop by because he has some charitable connections with that too. They're seeing anyone and everyone that they can, and it's been really fun to see them kind of. Esa at the game last night was kind of like a mafia don walking around with his like retinue. He led the whole team upstairs to like the owner's box because no one else, no one knows, even the Stars kind of staff, it's new for them too, right? They've scouted out a little bit, but even their travel staff, they're kind of looking to Esa to figure stuff out. He's like, nah, come this way and do all this stuff. So it's been really cool to see him kind of turn into the tour director / travel coordinator / security guard and PR person kind of all in one.
Hey, Robert, do you have a few more minutes? Can you stick with us for a second segment? All right. Don't go anywhere because up next, more with Robert Tiffin as the DLS Dallas Stars podcast continues.
Oh, yeah. There we go. Oh, yeah, now. All good. You full screen, you get the whole view of everything, too. I want to tell you guys about Empire Today with my full screen, very furnished bedroom here. And with Empire Today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire is your one-stop flooring shop. They want to provide the best and most efficient service. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring, so of course they're going to have copycats. But Empire cannot be beat on quality, services, or speed, so competitors may advertise low-quality products that Empire simply will not carry. They keep shopping for floors simple. They have a virtual floor designer, which is a great way to see any floor in your room. All you do is snap a picture, and you'll see that floor in your room like we have in that beautiful, beautiful lounge that the boys are sitting in. Right. Well, some of the boys. There's a lot of people on screens, too. But some of our boys are sitting on a very beautiful Empire Today flooring in the lounge. So schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code DLLS. Just restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/DLLS for details.
What chaos. Yes, the All City Hockey Podcast hosted by Pete Blackburn, who was on our show last week, and DJ Bean. Mostly hockey with a little bit of nonsense. Interviews with players, coaches, notable personalities in the world of hockey, and appearances from other local All City NHL hosts. Maybe one of us will get asked at some point. Maybe Luddy will say no. Actually, he's very generous with his time. Most recently, they talked to Boston Bruins forward Trent Frederick. Gee, I wonder how that got brought up, John, about growing up with the Kachucks and playing roller hockey in his unfinished basement. And I'm starting to think I should have done that with mine. Live 4 times a week at 12 live. Thank you, Burgundy. Live 4 times a week, 12 Eastern, 11 Central on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, make sure to check out their new merch collection, which just dropped in partnership with Just Dishin. Shirts, hoodies, hats, and accessories. Visit justdishin.com to check it out. All right.
Am I clear?
Back to Robert, and we are going to toss the baton to Sean.
Yeah, Robert, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the Jokerit experience yesterday. You were talking about it because it's really interesting to me to hear about this experience for Jokerit, because when I was there in 2019, I went to a Jokerit preseason game. They were playing in the KHL. They were playing against SKA, and Antti Niemi was actually the goalie in that game. And I wasn't planning on seeing Esa at the game, but I'm sitting down there, and Esa and his girlfriend had actually randomly bought tickets in the row right behind me at the row. And so that was completely unintentional. Esa and I watched the preseason game. That preseason game, Esa was very anonymous. It was one of those things where I knew who he was. We were talking. Now you're talking about a Jokerit where Esa is part of this group that has helped save essentially a cultural touch point for Finnish hockey. And from your perspective, and I saw some of your pictures on Twitter and everything like that, but can you just kind of paint the picture for me from that flag waving fan base, all of the people there who, thanks to what Esa, what Tara, what basically a bunch of other Finnish NHLers have done to kind of help bring Jokerit back, to see that firsthand. What was that like?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. One of the other co-owners and the guy actually who reached out to Esa and Teuvo Teravainen initially, Ossi Ovaninen, who another former NHLer. He played almost 500 games, I think, with Arizona and a couple other clubs. He talked about what it has meant to do things like this. Like Esa did the opening puck drop, but then you also have the game starting out the way a lot of like European soccer matches do, but in a good way. So Let's doesn't need to worry about this. They have like team anthems. Their fan club has been going on for decades and decades. And so they have like a team, they call it a hymn book, at least that's the translation. So there's dozens of songs with lyrics, with tunes and chants, and they have like a guy in behind the net at the Jokerit like fan supporters end, where no one is allowed to sit for the entire game. All those fans are standing, and throughout the whole game there's a guy with just a megaphone, like an old-fashioned megaphone. It's not electronic. He's just calling out, this is the chant we're going to do, or this is the song. And Esa even said during the game that they specifically brought back some of the old chants from when he was a player to sing to him that night. So There's this kind of through line of fandom through the years that people have even come back to the game. Vannanen was telling a story actually to us last night about a father and son who like weren't on speaking terms, but when Jokerit got brought back under Finnish ownership, that was the occasion for this father and son to like start speaking to each other again because they were both so excited. They actually brought Valtteri Filppula. Everyone remembers him, although when he was with the Red Wings, maybe it's a painful memory for Stars fans. But they brought him in this year because they're trying to kind of build the team right and develop like through their junior system and then into the men's league, which is the club that you usually see. And bringing a player like Filppula in is something that usually they wouldn't do because that was something sort of the old ownership did, try to bring, old veteran players that you have to pay a lot of money to just to hope to hang on to kind of a spot in the league. But Filppula wanted to come back. It was his choice because he loved the club so much and he also has ties to Jokerit. But Vannanen said the fans just went absolutely nuts when they announced it because they had a player who was wearing 51 and then they first announced, this player is going to be changing his number from 51 to something else. But then they waited a little bit so the fan buzz would start. People would start talking about, wait, what's going on? Why would he need to change from 51? Who wore 51 that would be coming? And they teased it a little bit. And that sort of thing has been really stoking the fan interest. And so you could see it, even though it wasn't a totally full crowd, hearing the fan chants all throughout the night, seeing kind of, you saw some of the older jerseys and stuff. As I said, a lot of fans brought his old like Jokerit jerseys that they had from, 10, 15 years ago, both for him to sign and just to wear. You could see it. You could see it, you could feel it. Again, that's a little bit subjective, but just the sheer joy. There's a lot of kids at those games too, which on a weeknight is a pretty big deal. And Esa it's hard to describe what he looked like as he's sitting there in the box watching this chanting happening, and we're asking him some questions during the first period and he's answering, but also he's hearing all these chants. There's a lot of emotions tied to it, which is not something you stereotypically see from Finnish people, but you could see a lot of it last night. It really does feel like everyone we talked to, even Yue Lind, actually, who I think played with Luds back in the day in '98. His son now, Oni Lind, plays for the club too. I think he's 19, and it means a lot to him too because this is the only club he's ever wanted to play for.
I'm curious.
Was Robert?
Robert,
what's the update on the? Sorry, Luds. Are you talking or am I talking?
Go ahead.
I was trying to, but never mind. Go ahead,
Luddy. No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you: are we sure Robert and Sam are in different hotel rooms?
Why? Because they both have the plain
They sure
walls.
look like they're in the same room. Are we sure Sam actually went to visit his girlfriend?
I mean, he could be anywhere. Like Robert.
Look at he's blushing now too. Look
Robert
how red he's
did it
getting.
Previously with Finnish sign behind him. It was like holding up the newspaper. We knew
they
where
got
he
great
was.
decorations in them Finnish rooms, though, don't they?
They sure do. Yeah.
What are you in the broom closet? Oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah. There's
he's
a
not-
That's more decoration than Sam has.
Oh, come on.
Oh, Sam's out of the frame already.
Oh, please.
See?
That seems like a
Gracious.
passive-aggressive message to you, Sam, if she's leaving that out there for you to find when you get there.
Yeah.
Oops.
Go ahead, Sean.
What are you gonna
Where is Robert? Where is, maybe you can just sort of, for people to understand, Jokerit is not in the top league yet, right? They're still in Mesties, which is the second tier, and they're working their way up. Where are they in that journey to get back to the top league?
They're working on it. They have to finish atop the league, and there's like a playoff thing too. It's hard. It's hard to get from this league to the top. In fact, it used to be almost Vannanen and one of the other owners, Mikko, whose last name I'm going to butcher if I try to say it, Mikko Sarni or something like that. We're talking about how it is a tough proposition to do that, and so they're trying to be careful. There's a lot of excitement, and you don't want to lose that momentum by not getting back to SM Liga, which is the top Finnish league, and that's where Jokerit was for a long time. But because of the whole fiasco with Russian ownership and the Russian invasion of Ukraine, they kind of were forced to start back a tier below and work their way back. But it's dicey this year. It's still possible for them to win promotion at the end of this year, but they're also willing to be patient if it doesn't happen. So you could hear in talking with both of the owners and even with Esa, it's one of those things where they don't want to tell people, oh, it's okay if we don't get back, because that needs to be the goal. but also they don't want to spend too much right now. I mean, and this happens in Premier League soccer too, right? Clubs get to the top league and then they get more advertising money and all this stuff. But then if they don't stay in the top league, go back down, then they have to get rid of players and they have to cut payroll. And the owners were talking last night about how if you don't cut that payroll and you just bring on other players anyway, because you're trying to get to the next league, then that has to come out of somewhere because it is a business, and you can't just write blank checks because that's how organizations go bankrupt. So they're trying to be deliberate about it, but we'll see how the season finishes. It runs pretty similar to the NHL season. I think the regular season finishes in March. So around the same time that the Stars are hopefully starting the playoffs, they should have some idea of where Jokerit is. But it's dicey right now. I think they're not in first right now, but I think they're in the top 5 last time I checked.
So, Robert, they have to, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I read this in either your or Sean's stuff. They have to win that league and then beat the lowest team in Liga in a playoff in order to make that jump?
Yeah, I think that's right. And Sean will correct us, obviously, because he wrote more extensively about it in the great piece that I linked to in my piece. So I figured I wouldn't duplicate all that reporting, and I'll just steal from him as usual. But yeah, so it's not just about, projecting and, we're in the standings. You also have anything can happen, right, in a playoff game. So.
Sorry, guys, we're derailing the show because during your conversation, Lutz decided that he was going to go take a little nap. So he walked over to the couch, and now he's out.
This was even a hockey. This is a hockey conversation too. This wasn't even. Lutz is losing his patience with everything.
It was nothing with Robert. He was just trying to have a little fun. I said to wait until Sam was talking, but we didn't know when that would be. So
perfect.
Yeah.
But so is that how it works? So sorry. One other question is it one game playoff? Sean or Robert, whoever knows the answer. Is it a one game playoff?
It's a series. It's a
series. Okay.
It's either a best of 3 or best of 5. I don't have that in front of me.
All right, Robert, I've got a very, very important question for you because I loved your posting from, I want to say it was yesterday. It wasn't the most recent one. So your second most recent, where you said you can't wait till you're in your mid-70s when nobody will give you any kind of guff for ordering soup with every meal. I love that line. But have you tried anything particularly traditionally Finnish? Have you had reindeer yet or something of that ilk?
Yeah, after the whole sauna thing today and jumping into the Baltic Sea, it's kind of traditional to take some nourishment after that. We had some cured fish, they called it a better version of salmon that they had as well. And then they had reindeer. It almost looked like those tortilla rolls like you see at parties, from Costco or whatever, with the tortilla and like tuna or something in the middle of our lunch meat. But instead it's like a reindeer pate or something like that in it. So, and
did it have a Santa cookie on the side too, or was
they
it just
did put a little drop
different?
of like jam on top? So I wonder if that was kind of a nod to Rudolph for the Americans. But yeah, it's my philosophy is just try anything. I actually happened to get a beer with a couple of NHL off ice officials who they brought in to help with this game, and they had a lot of interesting stories. And the funny thing is we went and stopped in this place. We're like, let's try some Finnish stuff. And we go in and the guys are trying to pitch us on their new IPAs that they've gotten or whatever. And they're like, it's American style. It's so cool. And we're like, we don't want that. We didn't come 5,000 miles to try the same annoying thing, overplayed thing that everyone's trying here. So you kind of have to push a little bit.
Which city did they fly in the off ice officials from?
Flying Winnipeg.
Winnipeg. Okay.
Yeah, they rotate for different games. They were saying, so it depends on the game.
Well, I was just hoping it wasn't going to be like the Vegas off ice officials, because then the Stars would set a season high for hits in the game.
Yeah, they were. One of them actually was here. They specifically brought him because he used to track time on ice like the old way. Now it's a little bit more automated, but it was literally just like a punch in, punch out system, and he was doing it kind of visually and doing this, so he can do it that way. If the system goes down, and they can't do the automatic time on ice way, they still have a guy who knows how to do it the old way.
That's funny.
The NHL is definitely covering its bases.
What did reindeer taste like?
It's good. How is this good? Is this good podcast fodder? It tasted good. I would just try everything. Everyone try everything.
Is big on food.
Tyler Sagan said he was really scared about trying it for some reason. I don't know if he's just playing it up or maybe he just has a palate that likes what it likes. But yeah, you just got to try everything. That's why some of the folks today at the lunch we had, some of the Florida Panthers, their broadcast team actually was there as well. And they were talking about, oh, well, I don't really like seafood, but I'll try it, or, oh, I'll get something else. And everything was really good, and everyone's been really, really accommodating. And they'll ask, if you have any dietary restrictions. But fortunately, I can just say, lay it in front of me and I'll try it, because come on, when in Finland.
There you go, lads.
Yeah.
So poor old reindeer over here is trying to get his beverage in. Robert, we really, really appreciate you taking some time out of your trip. It's been enlightening. It's been silly. We try to keep it a little entertaining around this mess. We'll have to have you in the studio at some point, but thank you so much for coming on and giving us a real taste of what it's like to be maybe literally in Finland.
Hey, Heika's got some big shoes to fill tomorrow.
He does. Mike Heika will be here tomorrow. He's over there as well. I'm sure you've seen him out and about with the Stars coverage, but really, really thrilled to have you lead off our coverage out there. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert.
Appreciate y'all.
Thanks, Robert.
See you, buddy.
Up next on the DLS Dallas Stars podcast, we will talk about billions next. But first, let's talk about the Die Hard program. And just like Sean, I have to go diving down for my talking points. But I already know. I don't even have to look at this because we know. What I do need to know
That's the
is
easy
that
read.
we do have some new Die Hard signups today because we're in the middle of a DLS new introductory offer for new Die Hard signups. Go to alldls.com and join the Die Hard program for just $4 a month. You can get access to all of the exclusive content that Sean and Sam write. Obviously, Luddy is starting to do some film breakdowns. If you haven't seen that, it's really, really interesting. Plus, of course, this week, Luddy took at the players who drive each of the Stars' top 3 forward lines, is his breakdown. You can also get access to the Discord. We're going to do that tomorrow during our Halloween show. Luddy's damn Discord channel. Some of the many things that you can do by signing up to be a diehard. And I'm trying to delay here because Bobby sent out some new signups today, and I can't find them. Trying to find their names to give them a shout out. It's probably in the other one. So there you go. Alldls.com. Be a diehard today. Okay. Our final part of today's show has to do with franchise valuations. Sportico announced their updated valuations for NHL teams, and we'll start with Sean, our business of hockey expert, because he spent a long time covering that. And Sean, I saw this. You tweeted it to the group text or texted it to us, and I immediately was shocked at how much the Stars jumped. They had I think it was about $500,000 in valuation, or excuse me, $500 million, $500 million for just Dallas. And you said, well, yeah, everybody went up a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is right now it's now $1 billion league. At this time last year, 10 NHL teams had valuation under $1 billion. So now when Columbus is at $1.06 billion and is the least expensive or least value team in the league, it's completely changed things. The Toronto Maple Leafs jumped almost $1 billion in value as the top team. So from a league perspective and the values of franchises, they just continue to go up. And this is really reflective of what's happened in the last 6, 7, 8 months too. Like you see Utah on this list, and I know it's a list so people listening can't see it, but Utah is valued at $1.2 billion. That's what Ryan Smith paid to get the team from Arizona. So that's an easy valuation to come to, $1.2 billion. The Tampa Bay Lightning come in at $1.8 billion. Jeff Finnick just sold off the majority. When that deal is complete, it was valued at $1.8 billion. So these valuations just kind of show are very reflective of what's happened, and then they also kind of give an idea for. I talked to an NHL owner about this, and they brought up to me where these valuations are good starting blocks. They're good kind of places like, okay, if you were to ever sell your team, this is where the conversation would start. You also have to remember that these valuations are probably under what a sale price would actually be. Well, the Utah one and the Tampa one are based off what just recently happened. Those teams were valued. I mean, Arizona was valued at $675 million last year, and It costs way more than $675 million to get them. So the Stars, for example, $1.65 billion right now. Tom Gaglardi was to ever sell the team, that negotiation starts at $2 billion, because these are, it's like buying and selling expensive art. There's only so much of it in the world, right? So the valuation gets an idea, and the ranking gives an idea of probably who's more valuable than who. But at the end of the day, any team on this list goes up for sale, they're going to go typically for more than that. And then Owen, I'll even use try to do my best Owen impression. What does this mean for expansion, Owen?
Well, thank you for setting me up, Sean. I think we saw this when you mentioned the Utah move with Ryan Smith getting the team, and what he had to pay was in the billion. It was billions. What Alex Marullo got for his sale, he had a chance to buy back in, basically, which isn't going to happen now. And so I think we already knew, because of that if the NHL ever does expand, and we talked about this on previous shows of being a possibility, whether it's Atlanta or Houston or back to Arizona, it's going to start in the billions. And if you remember, it wasn't that long ago where it was 500 million or 750. I mean, it's really shot up. And so I was trying to find the exact number. Maybe Sean would know this because he wrote a book about the Dallas Stars. Do you remember what Tom Gaglardi actually paid? Was there I couldn't find a quick
I think it was like
search.
If I remember correctly, it was like, I believe it was around 160 million, actually. Like, really,
I think it was 200 something, wasn't it, Leds? Do you remember what it was?
240 million.
240?
Yep.
Yeah, 240.
Now, and plus the debt.
And how much was the debt? Do you remember?
Yeah, it said it was bleeding around 30 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
So the debt was whatever many years that was.
That was around
100 or so. Okay, so let's just say it's what?
I believe
350.
sorry, and that sounds so. The 160 number in my head is that's kind of the 240 was the price, but I believe the 160 is the actual value.
That's exactly.
So there was a sale price.
Number.
So it was 240 was the debt and the okay. So think about this now. That was back in 2013, correct? 2012, 2013. I'm trying to remember the day. The Stars are valued at $1.65 billion. That is 1.4 billion more than he paid for the team 10 years ago. That's a huge return on an investment. Now, obviously, he and his businesses, the hotel industry during COVID took a huge hit. But, Brad Albert said when he joined our show, we're in really good shape from the business side. Well, then you look at the valuation of the franchise. I think they'd have to be pretty pleased with where it's rated right now. Don't you guys?
Yeah.
Top 16 in the league, over $1 billion in valuation over a 10-year period, rate increase. That's incredible.
Well, the one to me that really sticks out on this is Nashville. So if you guys remember, Jimmy Haslam is in the process of buying the team at a deal that officially, it's like a 4-part purchase. It won't officially close until 2025. But he's locked in that deal to buy the Nashville Predators at $880 million. And he's still completing that purchase at $880. And he's basically buying, if you look at that list, Nashville's at 1.32. That's the quote unquote winner right here. Somebody who hasn't even completed their purchase yet, locked in a price at, and then is making about $500 million just by the time they finish buying it. So it's the other reason too, like, you're seeing more and more like private equity and venture capital are trying to invest more in NHL teams because they're seeing the NHL as one of the easiest, quickest ROI spots from a business point to get in. And that's just more so from the point of entry to an NHL team. And we're talking billions of dollars and everything like that. That's a lot of money. It's still not much but it's compared to getting to the NFL or in the NBA or an MLB team. It's not nearly as expensive point of entry. So you're seeing a lot of financial investment groups and everything like that are looking, how can they buy bits and pieces of NHL teams to get quick ROI? And it's only adding to the value here for these franchises. And it's good for the owners. And it's a whole nother thing that I'm sure just the reality is it's going to be, if I'm the NHLPA, I'm going to have quite a conversation about it during the next CBA because it's franchise values go up, go up, go up. not necessarily part of hockey-related revenue. So that's a whole nother that's an interesting conversation for us to talk about in another show when we've got more than 8 or 9 minutes left.
Well, just looking at Toronto, they're the number one valuation. Again, Sean mentioned this to me earlier. Just because this is a valuation doesn't mean this is a sale price. And you talked about Nashville, right? Just because you're valued at doesn't mean that's what somebody's going to pay you for it, but it does certainly help in negotiations. And the Maple Leafs top it at $3.66 billion, is considered the most valuable franchise, a 38% increase from a year ago. But to put it in comparison, the most highly valued sports franchise in the world is the Dallas Cowboys at $10.1 billion, calculated in August of 2024. That is massive.
Sell.
That's crazy.
Sell.
Not a chance, right?
I don't know. There's some fans that might want him to
How
sell.
many Super Bowls does that translate into?
In the last 30 years, not so many,
I think that just means you're good automatically.
right?
It has to.
When did we become
Just
a
put more
football
money on it.
podcast?
What's up with that, Yankees?
But no, in a grand scheme of things, I think the way I want to kind of bring it back together, and I'll look at Luds first. When you look at where the franchise was when Tom Ghilardi bought it, coming out of administration, being run by the league, having to spend to the floor, or having to, back when the rules were that you could claim a guy off re-entry waivers for a different amount than off of waivers, and they couldn't do that because it wasn't enough to get to the salary cap floor, to now being top half of the NHL in valuation, being valued at over $1.6 billion, being a team that for the 2 years straight have been to the conference final. They think they have a chance at winning a Stanley Cup, and it's not a window that's closing rapidly. It's a remarkable transformation of this club.
I'd say good move, right?
Yeah.
I think back at that time when it was in limbo, so to speak, in the league, or whoever the dude was that came in here was running, and Joe Nieuwendyk was a general manager. And I felt so bad for Newey because, they were like, come on in, Joe, and fix this team. And, oh, by the way, you can't spend any money, and it was short-lived for him, and it was not his fault. But at the end of the day, I mean, I look at some of those other teams, I know that some people buy teams because it's in a certain location and for whatever reason. But when you look at the Dallas Stars and the evaluation, and pick a San Jose or somebody like that down in the bottom 10, what team are you going to buy? Like, I mean, I'm just saying, like, look at the future. I look at the future of the organization and where this team is, where it's going north as far as their young players and their talent and everything. And they're going to be like this for a long time. So the building is going to be sold out for a long time. I got to peek at the San Jose game the other night. It was that last night, I think it was last night. I mean, it reminded me of some other buildings in the past. And in San Jose, they've been a pretty faithful group there for a long time, and there was nobody in the seats. So when you say that those teams are, I think they're all in $1 billion, right, Sean? They were all, every one of the, I'm like, who wants to pay $1 billion for that?
Right now, Columbus, the lowest at $1.06 billion, and that's a 20% increase even for them.
I mean, and I don't know when they're going to be, a winner. So
right.
When I look at those numbers, then I look at where the Dallas team is with what they have in their, in their tank. I'd be knocking on that door. Not that, Mr. Ghilardi's in any spot where he wants to sell it.
Well, if you wanted to buy a winner and you wanted to go do that, is the team with the second lowest value is 8 and 9, has won 8 of 9 so far this year. So
that'd be the Winnipeg Jets.
Yes, business value and everything like that, being a valuable franchise, as the football team in that market well knows, doesn't necessarily always mean you're going to have on-field success. The one thing that I really like about what the Stars have done is I don't think that they have sacrificed one for the other. There are balances you have to strike, right? There's one of Jim Nill's jobs. One of the difficult things about Jim Nill's job has been, okay, you have to keep things. You could never tear down in Dallas, because that was kind of the message that Jim Nill got. You can't tear down because you have to keep the interest growing. You have to keep fielding a competitive team. The Stars have never said, like, okay, we're going to sacrifice business success for on-ice success, or vice versa, where, and I'm just going to use this to take a shot at the Cowboys, I'm sure the guy who owns the Cowboys would, if he won 3 Super Bowls, but his team wasn't the most valuable team in the world, he'd be upset. So I don't think that we're at least covering a team on this show that cares about at the end of the year of who actually wins the championship.
I would like to add one final thought as we wrap up our post-game or podcast. Why I keep calling it post-game?
Man,
The Seattle Kraken paid $650 million in expansion fee to join the league in 2021. They currently are 21st in the NHL valuation at $1.46 billion. That's in 3 years. That's a massive jump. The Vegas Golden Knights Bill Foley paid $500 million in 2017, and look at where they're at, all the way up at 1.77. So again, we remark about how great the Stars valuation has gone up. These expansion teams in even less time have all. I mean, as it goes back to Sean's original point in this segment, the entire league is growing. The valuations of all the clubs are going up, and
They're all going to start with a B.
every expansion fee moving forward is going to be in the billions.
Yep.
Two of them at least.
Yeah.
2 of them. If you really think that this league is gonna, they can be selective right now. They're at 32. They've got a good number. If you're the league right now, if the next team to come in, if that ownership group isn't paying at least $2 billion, you're leaving money on the table. You don't have to expand right now. You can wait for someone who says, okay, I'm going to pay $2 billion to do it. So.
Good grief. Well, Sean, Sam, Luds, that's it for today. Stick around, though, because we are going to do a special video on demand on YouTube talking about the NHL news and notes of the day. But we'll be back tomorrow. Our show is at noon Central Time. We are going to have DallasStars.com senior writer Mike Heika join us from Finland to give us a little bit of boots on the ground report. And we will be getting ever closer to the games against the Panthers with the Stars playing the Global Series.
Look at Sam. Sam's got something to say. He's getting closer to that screen. Go ahead,
don't
Sam.
forget your costumes, gentlemen. Don't forget your costumes. It's the costume show tomorrow. Mike Heika included.
Hey, if you're not going to dress up the walls, at least you can dress up tomorrow, right?
Exactly.
I think that's the answer, Luds. He's going to. Don't forget to follow DLS Sports and at DLS_stars. Saturday morning, we will be doing a watch along, which means you can watch along us watching the game from Finland. Sean should be part of Friday's broadcast, so a lot of fun.
Sam, if you just put a white sheet over the top of your head and your chair, we won't even know you're there tomorrow.
I don't know where you're going with the white sheep, and
because
I was a
it
little
blends in
worried.
with the walls.
I was a little worried about it, but we're okay now.
I was
All right. For Craig Ludwig and Sean Shapiro and Sam Nestler, whether or not he's dressed as a ghost, John Anderson, I'm Owen Newkirk. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow right here on the DLLS Dallas Stars podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.